I'm here today with Caroline Davis, co-founder and director of Propana Group Spain. Hello, Caroline. How are you today?
Great, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming in to have this interview with me today. So, Caroline, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I was originally born in Scotland. I grew up in Mallorca. I have been in real estate for over 25 years, and I'm the co-founder of Propana Group.
So you were born in Scotland, but you grew up in Mallorca. So tell us about that. How did that happen?
My father wanted to sail around the world, so I grew up on a boat for the first 3 years of my life. And then we ended up going to Mallorca, where they decided to buy a ruin. And I ended up going to school there and learning Spanish from the age of 5. So I became probably more Spanish than, I want to say, English. I spoke Spanglish for many years. And at the age of 13, my parents realized that my English was so bad, especially written English, that we had to go to the UK and actually finish my education there because I could barely spell, could barely write in English.
So you went back to the UK at 13?
So, went back to the UK at 13. And by the time I was 18, I was here and back. I haven't left since then. I've been to Dubai and other countries, but mainly based in Spain.
So you grew up in Spain, basically? And so you don't look Spanish.
No.
Of course.
No.
But I've heard you speak in Spanish.
I'm a guiri española.
You are definitely Spanglish, right?
Yeah.
Massively. And that's one of the things that, when I first met you, I think it was probably around 2010 or something like that. One of the things that struck me, because when I first introduced you, Caroline, you think it's another guiri, whatever, real estate. And then I heard you speak Spanish. I went, well, hang on a minute, this isn't normal. And now I understand, right? You grew up, you went to Spanish school, and you're fluent in Spanish. Perfect. So what was it? Why did you move back to Scotland? Did you move back to the UK? What
So moved back to Scotland for a few years. Absolutely struggled with the weather and the whole lifestyle because, as you can imagine, I'd been outdoors my whole life. It was to the point where actually, I've got a funny story. I grew up in a small village called Capdella in Mallorca. And to the point where it was very campesino, it was very country, and they used to do the matanzas, we're talking a long time ago. And we used to eat sobrasada and all that kind of stuff. I don't even know what that is in English, by the way. Don't ask me.
Neither do I.
But so I used to have a horse, and I used to ride my horse to school some days. So it was very,
You used to ride your horse to school, okay?
Yes. It's very odd. But so I literally grew up in a country village. And then obviously I went from that to Scotland, and it was a bit like, whoa, where am I? It's freezing, and people don't say hello when you walk down the street, and it's a really different culture. So yeah, I didn't last very long. Came back when I was 18, and that's when I started in real estate.
And you started immediately.
Yeah.
Did you go back to Mallorca? Or did you go to somewhere else?
No, we came to Andalusia, came to the Costa del Sol, a Laurín el Grande, actually.
Right.
That's where my parents bought a place. My dad actually, I was really sick, and he wanted to drive over, and I remember he drugged me with Piriton, which is some antihistamine, and because I had chickenpox at the time, and drove me down here. And at the time, I had no idea what I was going to do because I'd been waitressing for several years. And it was actually a builder that was working on my dad's house that said to me, I commented on something he was doing. He said, oh, you wouldn't know, you're a waitress. And I thought, okay. Then I saw this in English, saw a job in real estate, and I thought, I'm going to go for the interview. I'm going to see how I get on. And I did, and it was a really tough interview. And I ended up taking the job and loved it. That was the beginning of my sales career in development sales at the age of 18.
And what year was that?
That was, oh my God, a long time, 2000 and something. I'm now 43.
2?
So yeah.
2002, probably. Okay.
So time flies.
So
26 years.
2002 is a different market back then, right?
Very different market. I mean, at that time it was strong, selling off plan. Obviously that stopped a few years later, but that was where I began. And I continued in development. So that was with Ocean Estates. I don't know if you remember Ocean Estates.
Of course I remember Ocean Estates. Yeah, very well.
That was my first job in real estate. And then after that, I think I worked for McAnthony for a short time.
That's right.
And then I worked for a developer, which is where I met Luke in Casares Golf Gardens. I was working selling off-plan there.
Yeah.
yeah, it just goes on from there. Then we went off to Dubai for a couple of years, followed the market there, and worked for a developer in Dubai.
Right. Okay.
And then from there, we came back and we wanted to set up ourselves, wanted to do something ourselves. And
So you went to Dubai with Luke,
Mhm.
I guess. What was that like? Well,
Completely different as well. A very fast market. We worked for a developer over there. They were selling property off plan in a place called Dubai Sports City, which at the time was just desert. And it was a really interesting system because you had drivers that would take you out with the clients. So you would go out, you'd do a whole tour. You know, it's a good 2-hour tour. You'd go back to the office. You'd show them all the models of, you know, what they were going to have and what they were going to buy. And within 3 to 4 hours, you were expected to close them. So it was very much get the client in, come in and close. And I remember I probably went through the first 22 clients, and my friends, they sat me down and said, "You've gone through a lot of clients." I said, "Yeah." I said, "No, you should be closing at least 1 in 3." I was thinking, yeah, but I've only been with them for 4 or 5 hours.
okay. Well, all right.
So eventually, we got into it, and Luke was my TO, my boss at the time. So that was a little bit difficult initially working with him, and
Yeah.
I had to shut up when he came to the table with the price list. But we learned, and we became a great team, and absolutely loved it. But it was a very different way of selling.
So a lot quicker pace.
Yeah,
and
much faster pace.
My idea of real estate sales, I guess, is just an idea because I've never sold a house before in my life, but it's very much relationship based, building trust, you know, and
Trust
it's a long
is
and a
so
long
important,
journey. So to
yeah.
try and do all of that within the first meeting
Yeah.
must be quite difficult, right?
But I mean, you learn, and obviously people are eager because they're on holiday and they want to buy something in Dubai. To be honest, the pace has been very fast here before as well. I mean, I did sell some, you know, properties in the space of hours. Done that here too, and recently it's been like that as well. So you know, from that, I kind of went from a kind of slower development sales, you know, not having to rush the client immediately. They might come back the next day or a day after, to suddenly being in Dubai where it was, you know, constant. So.
Okay. And so you spent some time in Dubai. Dubai is completely different.
Now I haven't been back.
Right.
So yeah, that was, I want to say we were there 10 years ago. So I haven't really been back since, and it's changed massively from what I understand.
Okay. What was it like back then? Why did you move back to Spain?
I mean, Dubai was a great experience. We were working from 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. at night. Luke and I were normally the last ones in the office. And, you know, then you'd go out and socialize with your team, and you'd have a few drinks and be out till 2 o'clock in the morning and back in the office again at 8 a.m. And it was great. It was an amazing experience. But we loved Marbella. We missed Marbella. And this is where, you know, this is where we'd been. And the only reason we left is because the market
Was
kind of
down.
was massive. It was starting to crash at that time.
Yeah.
So we kind of rode the wave, went off to Dubai, did really well in Dubai, stayed there for a couple of years. Then the same company was in London. We went over to London with them. And then that was it. The dream was to come back. So we came back and we bought a plot of land, which was an old tennis club in Madronyal.
Okay.
And that was kind of the beginning of El Madronyal Residence. That's when we built the 3 villas.
I remember you telling me about that.
So that was
project.
8 years ago that we built them.
Okay. That's interesting. I'll get back to that in a minute. But I've done a few interviews. I've done a few interviews with women, but the majority I've done have been male voices. So tell me, what's it like being a female or a woman in the real estate business in Spain?
So, I think being male or female in any business, you've always got to prove yourself. I think knowledge is power. I think speaking the language can get you very far.
Okay.
Being able to communicate. There have been moments where it's been a little bit tough.
Can you tell us more?
Yes. I've got a few stories, but one that really stands out. Luke and I were trying to buy this plot. We were interested in buying this plot, and there was a vendor who was particularly disinterested in speaking to me in meetings. And Luke and I, we make decisions together, and you know there'll be meetings. Most meetings we're in together. So we were sat with him, and this was probably a second or third meeting. We decided that we wanted to buy this plot. We kind of, you know, skimmed on the price, but the idea was to sit down and negotiate with him. So we sat in the meeting. He was wouldn't even look at me, just talking to Luke directly. Luke was just nodding and nodding until eventually it came to the point where he said, so, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to do, are you interested? And Luke just looked at me and I started talking and I started talking. He just chuckled and he looked back at Luke and Luke looked at me again. And I just said, I'm just going for it. So I negotiated with him. I closed on a price. He kind of, then looked back at Luke again to say, is this okay? And he said, yeah, she's my business partner and this is okay. And I mean, there's been many moments like that.
And that person, was he Spanish or was he from somewhere else?
He was, he had been in Spain many years. I think he had I don't know whether he had a Spanish father or mother, but I mean, it was just, a business situation, wasn't it? Mm. Which I think is really what you're referring to rather than Spanish. I don't know whether it was mainly...
No, I mean, the reason why I say is because real estate, especially in the building and architect, I mean, I don't know many architects that are female. Maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
And this is what I want to say, because you are involved in developing, you're involved in building, you do transactions. I know you do your own transactions without, on your own, in your own name and everything else. So you're quite independent in that sense. And you get your hands dirty with the builders and stuff. What's it like? Because essentially...
Well, building sites are interesting. Yeah. So the first time, I remember one of the first times we were on the site and a build. So of course, it was one of the site meetings. And as you know, the architects are there. You've got technical architects, everybody's there. And they were, I think they just assumed Luke and I didn't speak any Spanish whatsoever.
It must be a complete shock.
Oh, no, it was brilliant. I won't forget this moment. So we're on the building site and, they're talking amongst themselves and the architect's talking to them. And I can see them smiling and talking to each other saying, don't, no le digas eso, don't tell her that. Don't tell them. And so I just thought, I'm just going to wait and see how much more they say and just kind of let the architect lead. And we're walking around the house and they're going, oh, yeah, there's an error here, but we're not going to tell them about that. And that's going to cost an extra. And I'm thinking, oh, wow. So at the end of it, I just, I said something in Spanish and their faces, they just went white. They didn't know where to look, which again, it shows never assume, right? I think people assume a lot in this business. Yeah. I think assumptions are very dangerous. You don't know who someone is. You don't know whether they speak the language. And, at the end of the day, the truth always comes out. So,
yeah, it does. And it's really important. So being who you are and obviously the confidence that you have, but also being able to speak the language is a bit of a kind of a superpower in a sense.
It is.
You can actually turn the tables on a situation just by the shock value. Mm-hmm. Because again, you don't look like you.
No.
That.
I still get spoken to in English. Or they say to me, you speak really good English.
Really? Right.
I'm like, I'm Scottish. Yeah. So I get that a lot. I mean, Luke gets that a lot. They say, oh, your wife, she speaks really good English.
Well, because they think you're Spanish.
Yeah.
Right.
When I speak Spanish, they think I'm from Madrid.
Right,
I don't know, I must have a clean accent.
Especially from being brought up on a campo in Mallorca, yeah.
Riding my horse to school. Yeah.
All right, so that's amazing and really good to know. So, but let's move on to what you're up to now. So go on, tell us about Propana. How did it start and what's it all about?
So we saw a gap in the market when we came back from Dubai, and we'd worked in development sales, we'd worked in sales, and at the time there weren't not only were there not very many off-plan properties, because as you know, the market crashed, and then we'd been away for a few years and it was slowly coming back. So we bought a large plot of land, and at the time it was an old tennis club in El Madroñal. Beautiful views, great location, security, and we designed 3 contemporary villas. We originally designed very large contemporary villas, and then, the amount of design and redesigning that we did was unbelievable. But we noticed that there was a huge gap in the market for that. So we were the first to actually build contemporary villas in El Madroñal.
Right.
Got quite a lot of backlash for it at the time. A lot of people really didn't like it. They weren't comfortable with it.
So I know El Madroñal. I've done a few bits and pieces there, and what was the style there? Was it more? It
was your beautiful Andalusian homes, which I absolutely love. And we were kind of coming in with quite modern-looking houses, which I don't want to call them boxes because the ones that we built aren't modern boxes, but they were very modern. At the time, it was a big difference from what was there. because it was your, like I say, your Andalusian cortijos or, So people were a bit kind of up in arms about somebody suddenly coming in. But the tennis club had been abandoned for several years. It was just sitting there. And we built 3 of the first modern villas in El Madroñal.
Yeah.
And the gap in the market was really, we wanted to do something bespoke, something different. Everything that we build, there's not one house that we build that's the same. We we build almost as though we're building for ourselves. So something that is special, really good quality. We have high expectations. And I think that, the profit margins aren't necessarily, we kind of cut into them in order to make sure that the finish is amazing. The door is heavy and the carpentry is nice. And you've got all those perfect lines. And, if there's a motorized window that needs to be motorized, it will be. We'll go that extra mile. Nice kitchen appliances. One of the reasons is we want it to be a legacy, and we also want that property to look just as good in 10 years' time as it does today.
And can I just say something there? A lot of clients that I speak to that are new to Spain, they ask about build qualities and stuff like that, and I don't know what to say to them.
Yeah.
If I'm honest. So you're the highest form of build quality, and like you say, in 10 years' time, you want to be still proud of that building.
Yeah, I mean, as an example, one of the 3 villas that we built in El Madrigal is currently on the market for a lot more than they paid for it, and it's not a new build property, but the qualities and the finishes still stand out. In fact, are still equal, if not, in some cases, potentially better than some properties out there. Obviously, the cost of construction has gone up. The cost of materials has gone up. I understand from a developer's perspective, it can be difficult nowadays because your margins are lower, So you've got to really work with, materials, and carpentry, especially nowadays, is not only very expensive, but very slow. There's a lot of demands, so.
It's hard to find good people
as well. It's
hard
to find, yeah.
Is that one of the challenges you're currently facing?
We have got a great team of people that we've worked with now for a long time, and depending on the project, we'll work with different architects, different builders, contractors. So we kind of, we use the people, but however, they are busier than they were before. They're not exclusive to us, so it is difficult to get people working for you all the time and available to you.
Exactly, they've got their own
Absolutely.
projects as well. They're being called on from other. So get back to the dynamic between yourself and Luke. What roles do you play? I mean, you're a team, obviously. Like, how does it work? What does Luke do? What do you do?
So Propana we do development, we do project management, and we do sales. So Luke covers the construction element. He has got an incredible eye for design, and he is absolutely fantastic at designing properties. He's an exceptional project manager. And I deal with the sales side. So between us, we kind of make a good team because he likes all the intricate details, and I like dealing with the clients.
I've seen a few of your projects, obviously, and I've seen some apartments that you've done as well, and I've been pretty wowed by the finish and the interior. Is that you, or is that Luke, or is that a combination?
So it's a combination of the two. And when we first started, we used to work with interior designers from the beginning. So, which I think makes quite a difference when you're building something from scratch. The designers can come in later, of course, but it really does help if they can come in from the beginning because, there's a lot of things and a lot of elements which I don't even understand, but I've obviously learned to understand at this point that an interior designer can really help with from the beginning. But yeah, now at this point, I do a lot more of the design, interior design, because I actually really like it. I really enjoy it. But I've learned a lot from some incredible designers throughout the years.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So what are you and Luke? I mean, do you only cover Costa del Sol? Because I looked on your website and it says kind of you do other bits and pieces.
We have done other things in other countries. London. We are based here. This is kind of our area. However, we've just recently started doing buy-side, which is a little bit different. So we've started offering a service which is a buy-side service. So any client that is looking to invest over here who wants kind of it's kind of like a tailored service for somebody looking for property. We help with the due diligence, we do market reports, we study the price per square meter, talk about the comps, make sure that they invest in the right areas, make sure that there's no issues along the way, and we make it a kind of a hassle-free service for them. So we are in collaboration with a company called Property Vision in London, who have been doing this for over 40 years. We also have some fantastic contacts with private banks in the UK and Spain, actually, that contact us and say they just want a trusted person on the ground that will make sure that they don't make a mistake and they buy the right thing. And it really opens up the clients get more of an opportunity to see more properties when you're not just the selling agent. In some cases, because of the demand in the market in Spain, a lot of agents have got listings that they simply can't share. So when you're representing a buy-side client, when you're hand in hand with that person, there's a whole...
So you're not limited. So essentially what you're saying is that obviously it must be a certain type of client, right? What kind of clients would use a buy-side service?
I've been dealing with some very high net worth individuals who are, they're very busy people. They know what they want, or they have an idea of what they want, but having that trusted partner and having that referral from either the bank or from Property Vision will make them very comfortable, because they know that, the research has been done. They know that we're the right agent, and we're there to make sure they get the best deal.
So you work on a flat fee. You don't get any commissions from the other agents?
In the buy-side case, we get looked after by the client. So we get a fee from... So that means that anything that we see from another agent over here, we don't come into it. We don't take any commission.
So there's no... Because in Spain, obviously, I think I did another video with someone, with another friend of ours. The vendor pays the commission to the agent, and then the agent would split.
Exactly.
But that doesn't happen with you.
Well, we've been doing deals like that, obviously, for years, and we've recently done buy-side deals. There will still be some deals that we continue doing like that. However, buy-side is something that we're starting to focus on, and we very much like. However, I feel like it gives our clients a bigger opportunity to actually see everything, even to the point where the client might come to me and say, Caroline, I've seen this property. Whether they've registered or not with that agent doesn't matter. I'm basically hand in hand with them. I'm not going to take anything from that agent. So long as, however, I think some agents aren't used to that down here, and they still don't quite understand. Even if you say to them, doesn't matter if they're registered, they'll say, no, we can't work with you. No, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. However, I work with just a handful of clients down here who are incredibly professional. And there's a lot of agents that purely and simply, just because I don't know them, because I don't have the relationship with them, I have the confidence in these other agents, and they tend to be the ones that I'll go to, because I'm not a listing agent.
No. So you represent high net worth individuals, I would say. This wouldn't work for a smaller price property.
I mean, it can do if somebody's willing to. I mean, nowadays we know that the entry level is a lot higher than it used to be. So, if somebody's looking for a property, even 500, 600,000, normally they wouldn't. However, it just depends what service they want.
Depends on the client.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're doing market study. They're going to have, more availability to them. They're not going to be limited as to what they can see. And I'm not incentivized to sell them something because the commission is higher.
No. And you could also probably get the price down, because there isn't another agent.
I mean, in some cases, there may be a 3-4% commission for the agent that brings the client. In this case, is that my room for negotiation, or?
Exactly. So if you're not getting paid from the
that they
selling
were initially
side,
willing to give away, yeah,
then maybe you could get a better deal for your client, which is the one that's buying.
The idea is to get the client the best deal, the best property, and again, like I say, it just opens up the doors to.
And if someone's willing to pay you for that, then you're going to work for them, right? Of
course.
That makes sense.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
We have a very similar structure with the way we work. We charge a broker fee to all our clients, and that guarantees that we're going to earn a minimum amount for the work that we do. So it doesn't matter which bank we end up going with, because obviously some banks pay us more commissions than others.
Yeah.
But we're not influenced because our client is paying us.
And your client's comfortable knowing that you're going to look for the best deal.
And we can be transparent. So, for example, let's say we get 5 different mortgage offers. We would put all 5 on the table, and then encourage the client to pick the one that they want, rather than the one that we want them to take, because we earn more money out of it, right? So it's similar sort of thing, isn't it? It's more that buying that independence and that transparency. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand it now. Thank you. So, let's get back to Propano, and you and Luke. So, what are you working on now?
So Luke has got Luke is working as a project manager on some projects. I am still focusing on a lot of clients that are coming over. We mainly work from referrals. So 85% of our business is referrals purely. We haven't done any marketing since El Madrigal days, which was 8 years ago.
I've seen that, yeah.
To be honest, I don't know if that's a good thing, but we really don't we don't do very much at all in terms of marketing. We're very happy with the amount of clients that come through. However, we're about to launch a project of 5 apartments in Estepona, 100 meters from the beach, close to Avenida Andalucía. Mm-hmm. So in the next couple of months, you should be seeing some information on that come out. We also have some really exciting, it's a lot of different things actually. We've got some exciting things that we're currently looking at for a client, who is looking to do a private school out here.
Okay.
A UK public school, which I understand is a private school here. They're looking for, the demand is huge. I don't know if you know that, there's waiting lists up to 3 years in some of these private schools.
My wife
now.
is a school teacher.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
I know a bit about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. So it's crazy. Everybody's moving here. They all want their kids in good schools. They want to go to the private schools, and there's just the waiting lists are crazy. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing we're looking into. Malaga is also another place that we are interested in.
Lovely.
So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Good. So you're keeping busy, and it's all good quality stuff,
yes.
right? Excellent.
Yes.
And obviously we've worked together on some projects before, and long may it continue. And I witnessed the stuff that you and Luke do, and that's why I invited you in, because I know it's great quality.
Thank you.
You're a business lady. I know you quite well. I know you do your own deals. I know you've worked with Spanish banks. Tell me, come on in, because we're a mortgage company. What are Spanish banks like to deal with?
You know better than anyone.
I want to hear it from someone else.
I'm talking to the pro here. So I find I've moved banks many times, and I also don't have a lot of time when it comes to city. If you just walk into a bank here in Spain, you could be standing there for ages, because you've got people going in with their libretas, their little bank books, which they still like getting updated. Yeah. And then you've obviously got other clients waiting, and there tends to just be it's chaos. So I tend to find a bank where I form a relationship, and then I can go straight to the director when I need to, and so on and so forth. However, they do tend to move a lot. Mm. So they might be based in Marbella for 3 or 6 months, and then they might go to Calahonda, and of course that's too far away. Yeah. So I find that I've just recently changing bank. I don't think I should name any of them, but I think that it's quite complicated. It would be amazing to have a bank that offered a quick service. However, your services are very handy. I've used you before. Yeah. And to be able to come to you and say, right, I can speak to 3 or 4 different banks, but I've still got to send all the paperwork. I can send all the paperwork to you. You will contact the bank, not just one, but several. You'll then put all the offers on the table, and it's a hassle-free service. And it's, and also you'll find us the best deal. Yeah. And I think that kind of service is amazing and helps very much, because when someone's looking for a mortgage, or even a bank to bank with, there's an array of banks, but you just don't know which one to go with.
No, the reason why I asked you that question is because obviously you're a very talented woman. You know how to move within different circles. You speak fluent Spanish, native Spanish. You think you'd be perfect. You just walk into it and then communicate what you want, and it will be done, right? But it doesn't work like that, right?
I can be very demanding. I do, and I communicate what I want, whether or not I get it. And you do sometimes kind of have to work one bank. Work them off one another and just say, well, I'm with this bank, they're offering me this, I want this, can you do this? And maybe I always suggest to work with more than one bank in Spain. So to have 2 bank accounts is always good. Mm-hmm. It's mainly from a service perspective.
But what would you advise someone who has no interest of becoming a business person like yourself, who doesn't want to be in and out of banks, hours on end trying to negotiate and everything else. Is it worth them trying to do it themselves? Bearing in mind I don't speak any Spanish, and or would you recommend that they should actually pass the responsibility onto someone that does it day in, day out?
I mean, is there someone that offers that service? Because I mean, at the end of the day, I think an introduction always helps when it comes to a bank. So we do have a lot of clients that will come over and will need a bank account, because in order to purchase a property, you need a bank account to, run your bills through and all the rest of it. So clients will very often say, do you know a bank? Can you recommend a bank? Which I will.
Yeah.
And it does help in as much as they've been recommended and they've got the service. I'm not saying it's an outstanding service, but it's a service.
Yeah.
And at least they've got a point of contact from day one. So they're introduced by email if they're not over here. If they're here, get them to see the director, and they set it all up. But what you asked something, which was, is there someone that you can? I mean, you're telling me something I don't know.
Not really.
If there's someone that you can actually recommend.
We talk to banks day in, day out, and so therefore that's what we do, and so we know which ones are having problems internally. There's a merger going on or a takeover going on that is having an effect on the bank internal, which we don't see from the outside. We know that there's some issues or whatever. It's not firing on all cylinders. A client can come to us and decide to buy cash, but we will help them with our relationships to open the correct bank account with the correct bank.
That's interesting.
Because obviously we do things like insurance as well. So it's not just the mortgage side, but most clients come to us for the mortgage, obviously, and then we would obviously find the perfect mortgage or the best mortgage out there, and then we would open up the bank account with that particular, because it's all retail banks that all have banking licenses.
But absolutely, I think it's the kind of thing that I can do and I will do to help them out initially. If there was someone that I knew that I could trust, that I could say, right, this is my client, maybe I can come to you and say, Mark, help me out with a suitable bank for this client.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we could talk about. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, when we're talking about money, which is what we are, you talk about money with your clients, it's always worthwhile getting a second opinion and say, listen, what do you think we could do here? Should he just buy cash? And I could say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, we're here not just to sell something,
but
we're here to advise and structure and find a most appropriate way to move forward, so that the person or the investor, whoever it is, can buy it knowing that they've covered every angle and they've been informed. They're not straightforward to deal with.
No,
would you say
they're
that?
not straightforward to deal with. What I found recently, this was an interesting one. Obviously, clients have to send you over all of their documentation. And as you know, they ask for tax returns. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the clients that I have are very high net worth individuals. And when the documentation gets to the bank, they obviously study it and they can see what their earnings are. Now, recently, one of the banks said to me, well, I'll open this was after 10 days studying it. They said, we'll open the bank account. However, we want an 80,000 euro deposit from the client. We want them to buy shares in the bank, and we want him to also have X amount in the account. I think they wanted a minimum of 100,000. So I looked at them and I said, no. And I said, why? Oh, well, we're taking risk. I said, what risk? I said, I'm giving you a client who's going to put money through, and he's about to purchase a property worth quite a considerable amount of money, which is going to go through your bank. Well, no, I'm sorry. So went to another bank. Within 24 hours, they opened the account, asked for no money, and it was all done.
Isn't that just like a complete waste of time?
Well, it really annoyed me because I'd used this bank previously, and they'd never done that. And whether or not this is a new system, whether or not this is them just being clever. But what really infuriated me was that they could see that the client, was quite wealthy, and
but they're trying to take
advantage.
Exactly, and that's what they do. And that's the problem when you go to the bank yourself. It's a bit of a David and Goliath situation. You're at the whim. Whereas when you use a Bank of Spain registered intermediary, any silly business, it's like they know they can't get away with it because they know.
I know. Well, I told them, see you later.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much.
But this happens a lot, and people think it's normal, and it's not.
It's not normal. It's not.
And because it's you and the bank, well, they'll string you along, and they
Yeah.
will tell you what they want you to hear, and that's not the case.
I mean, luckily, it was me speaking to the bank on behalf of the client
Yeah.
at that point. It wasn't the client speaking to them directly, because if it had been, they probably would have
imagine
thought, well, this is what happens in Spain. Because they were saying, yeah, you know, this is normal. I said, no, it's not. It's not normal.
No.
So yeah, that's the most recent.
It is a
run-in
bit of
that
a
I've
wild
had.
west over here with the banks. Regulation obviously came in 2019, but it needs a long way to go.
We do have to jump through a lot of hoops now, though. I mean, the anti-money laundering and it's. I mean, it's good, but it's.
Yeah, but that's why you need to pass it over to someone that does it day in, day out, so that we can just streamline.
Absolutely.
You know, it's an EU directive. It's not like a Spanish law that was brought in by the European Union. So it's all countries within the EU have the same rules and regulations, and AML and everything else like that. It is becoming more specialised, but it could go a lot further for me.
Yeah.
But that's just where we're at the moment. This is Spain at the end of the day. So the market's good at the moment.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
For us, anyway, it's fantastic.
And obviously there's a lot going on in the world at the moment. Is it going to affect, the Spanish real estate market? What's your thoughts?
I personally think Marbella has still got a long way to go, in as much as if you look at the price per square meter in Marbella compared to places like Monaco or, other places in the world that are already up there, we've still got some movement. However, it's not so much that. I think the lifestyle, what it offers, Marbella is an amazing place. I mean, I've been here for a very long time, and I've lived through the highs and the lows and the changes. And I remember going out in winter and thinking, oh, is there going to be anybody out tonight? And you'd see maybe 2 people. Now it's like, oh, we've got a reserve, So things have changed massively. I think there is a huge demand. There is not enough supply. There's a lot of demand for, high quality properties. There tends to be characteristics that the clients are asking for, which tend to be the same things. So, for example, sea views, gated communities, minimum 4 bedrooms, and there's not many of those properties, and the ones that come on sell very quickly. So I think that Marbella has got a good few years ahead. However, if we could predict it, if I had a crystal ball, which I don't,
We wouldn't be talking together now.
absolutely. But I think we're in a pretty special place.
I agree. And it's a great place to live. It's a great place to bring up families.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us little bit about that.
So we have 2 boys, and we live and breathe football, which
saw
is what
you
we
the
do.
other day.
Yeah, exactly. We bumped into each other at the sport camp. But yeah, I mean, we live and breathe football, and it's a great place for them to grow up. They love it. I think the weather is incredible, even though we've just had 3 weeks of rain, which we needed.
We needed it. Yeah.
However, it's got everything that anybody could ever want.
You live in Benavis. You live in a country type property.
I do. I live in it was a 250-year-old finca,
Right.
which we renovated during COVID. And it was literally a barn. But we love it. We're at the top of Benavis Pueblo. We've got beautiful views of the hills and mountains. We're 5 minutes from the village. We're 50 minutes from the coast. And it's a great place to live.
I've seen. I haven't actually been there, by the way, but
We need to come for a barbecue.
you
then.
need to come to
Yeah.
the barbecue. But I've seen obviously the shots of it, and it's spectacular. It's beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
is that because of your influence where you grew up in Mallorca?
I think,
that you wanted to be out in the country there?
I when we were building Madrigal residence, I remember saying, so, right, I want one of these houses. This is it. I want to stay in one of these. I want a fancy villa. And you realise that with kids, you can't have a fancy villa, and they're sticky fingers and all the rest of it. So we ended up. It was Luke actually that wanted to buy this place. I said, "You're mad." I said, "I'm not living up on the top of a mountain. This is ridiculous." And look at the amount of work we've got to do. But we did it, and we love it.
And it's a finca rustica.
Finca rustica.
Well, listen, Caroline, it's been absolutely amazing. Have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so.
We covered everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming in. It's been fascinating.
Thank you.
Really
It's
has.
been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.